Listen, the world of online marketing and sales is about to be upended by artificial intelligence. And in this video, we're gonna laugh at some terrible AI-generated clickbait. We're gonna question how anybody can expect an employee to make 50 articles a day for SEO, even if he's using ChatGPT. And we're gonna talk about how Elon Musk might start putting customized advertisements in your Tesla thanks to generative AI. But first, let's go enter a completely new Google-invented virtual dressing room. Now I feel like Google just took a shot at Amazon when they dropped this project in my email this morning. It's a virtual dressing room. So here's an example of what it's like. You can actually choose the skin tones, the ethnicities, the different sizes, so you can definitely get a good sense of what the product looks like on you before you order it. So Google's text-to-image generator is called Imogen, and it has had a specific upgrade that's made it tuned to this problem. And that's to take a person as an input data and make sure the clothes fit correctly on the output model. So it's like inpainting generative AI to the part of the shirt or pants that actually would be part of the wardrobe. For the data, they tapped into Google's shopping graph, which is a huge data set they have of all the shopping information from the shopping tab on google.com. It houses more than 35 billion product listings. Now, all their skin tone research from photos.google and some of the Google searches is all baked into this virtual dressing room also. But besides generating clothes on you, it actually works in reverse also, which is pretty cool. So if you're almost there, but you say, oh, I like this, but I just need it in a different color or something that's a little bit longer or made of a different material or whatever, it can go search through those billions of products that it knows about and try to find the right one and then put it on your avatar. So you're like, oh, that's what I wanted. Like, I thought it was a novelty when I first saw it, and I'm like, why is Google working on a project like this? But it does seem like a game changer in the long run. So I guess it's more convenient than going to the actual mall. But then you never get to see the mall cops being so dramatic. That's the best part. Imagine the internet as a wild party. Clickbait AI is like that one friend that had way too much to drink. And it thought that these images would convince people that they need to get a wax. Thanks to Slug on Twitter for sifting through the web to find this stuff. Like just hairs with arrows? Harness? Waxing? What is this? Is it cut? Is that the hair? At least that kind of looks like a scissor. What is this? Someone dyed their hair blue? Like down here it's a cross section of skin, but then up here it's like people's heads? 5 something here and you something there? What is this? These things aren't even connected, like upside down drips or something? I'm sure it learned that some chart like this looks like something on a waxing site, but that is not right. For you entrepreneurs out there, this is business start hop. Definitely click if you're a bassinus. What? And it caters to Polk and Boong, Bob Eeptone, Adelpug, Starkey. Oh man, that graph's going up right off the charts there. Like, listen, maybe it's better doing clickbait for the crypto crowd. Bitagegoin? Oh, Play Patty? I would trust my funds there for sure. Dude, look at that, rocket ship to the moon, love it. Cash Bash, get in now before Bitagegoin becomes like Elon Musk's favorite coin. Big Banzer 2016? Already missed it. Okay, I think that's like a PayPal vibe. Stacking, Stasker, Stasking? Lopan Poppin, of course, who doesn't? And this is clickbait for a dog grooming company. What is this, naming different parts of the dog with a question mark in the middle? Help your dog stop eating. This must be one of those like diet food for dog things. Oh. What is that? Vagnargus Vagum? What's that, the root symbol? Dignil? Is that supposed to be a happy person riding their dog like a horse? So, stop. And what's with that woman's proportions? Where's her legs? The dog leg? Maybe it thinks the dog's legs are her legs? Like one of those, like 2-person horse costumes or something? He's his, her. Every minute, probably thousands of new websites are popping up like this just to trick Google SEO. We knew this flood of AI garbage was coming. Let's just hope that Google doesn't actually pick up on much of it. Now, from a marketing point of view, stories are the best way to sell a product. So let's look into that and how it's affected by AI a little bit more. So humans were born storytellers, and AI is starting to figure that out a little bit. So let's dive into the world of storytelling and artificial intelligence. Giles Crouch wrote a piece called How We Use Stories to Adopt to Technology, where he talks about how us humans are like story machines, because storytelling might actually be how we make sense of the universe, the world that we're in. That's how our ancestors got to understand things. In the article, he talks about how in the 90s tech boom, a few companies figured that out better than others, Apple being the best in class at it. But even the parts of the internet like meme generators and social networks are very story driven. But all of a sudden, the biggest tech storytelling going on right now is about artificial intelligence. Now, the first story is humanity is done for, it's all doom and gloom. The second one is all like, awesome dudes, look at how crazy the future is gonna be, so excited. But as large language models like ChatGPT develop, I'm sure AI will start being able to write its own stories about what it wants us to understand about itself. So get ready for that. So some interesting news about how generative AI might impact Tesla cars. Let's dive in. So a woman named Carolyn Everson sits on the board both at Coca-Cola and at the Disney company. And for years, she was head of marketing at Meta, formerly Facebook. And she has some interesting thoughts about how Elon Musk might integrate generative AI advertising into the Tesla console. So in this CNBC article, she talks about how it would be relevant if it had Starbucks when you're in front of a Starbucks. So the future of generative ads inside of a car will take into account your location and where you're going, and maybe right on the fly it will generate whatever ad is most optimized for you. She also points out how all of a sudden Uber started making $1 billion in advertising when that wasn't even an original model they thought of.
Uber's ad business is projected to be $1 billion. That sort of came out of almost virtually nowhere.
And how Coca-Cola has now transitioned more than 50% of their budget onto online digital, including one campaign where they asked Coke fans to use generative art with their IP, and if they did a great job, they might even end up in Times Square. So now let's talk about this concept about crossing the chasm, something all big products have to do. So there's this super cool book called Crossing the Chasm, which teaches companies how to turn their gizmos into something that everybody wants to buy. And a recent post on Medium called Crossing the Chasm, everything you need to know for ChatGPT to go mainstream. The publisher called How to Win has adapted these ideas to ChatGPT's story. Let's have a look. So if you look at this almost normal distribution of the lifetime of people using a technology like ChatGPT, you can see even with 100 million people using it, we haven't crossed the chasm, and that's when it becomes much bigger. With plugins recently being released, I would guess that we're right here in the minimum feature set. But both the early and the late majority are coming on board as long as this kind of growth trajectory stays on course. Now ChatGPT is probably gonna have an easier time jumping this chasm than most products, but still, there's a big reward on the other side for it. Imagine when ChatGPT almost fades into the background of your life, and the large language technology is just helping you with your homework, your grandma's using it to help cook dinner, and your neighbor's talking to it about what kind of plants to put in her garden. And that kind of technology right now is great for somebody who has to write articles all day, for example. Or is it? And it's just scaled up to a point where it's now kind of ridiculous. Frank Landymore wrote an article titled, "Owner of Gaming Site Fires Writers and Hires for AI Editors to Actually Churn Out Hundreds of Articles a Week." So the article talks about how this company called Gamers actually let go of half their staff to save money. And what the company does is publishes articles about video games. But now they're back in the hiring mode, but not the people they fired. Instead, they're looking for people to use AI to actually help them generate a lot more articles than before with more of a skeleton staff. And a lot of companies honestly are going this direction, but this poor person has to come up with 50 articles per day. And I guess ChatGPT can generate an article really quickly, but do you want the person to actually read it and think about it and it to be relevant, or do you just assume it's gonna be good enough? I mean, just imagine you're a writer who loves video games, you lost your job, and then you see the kind of content that starts coming out of the company after you leave. I mean, eventually they're gonna get really good at writing articles, so I understand. But if you're playing the SEO game, I guess the machine can pump out a lot more text. It can be better at sprinkling in the keywords that you want for SEO, so it's the business model, but it's not about writing about games anymore. And with Google moving away from blue links anyways, I feel like everybody's gonna lose here. So now let's put ourselves in the shoes of the advertiser and think about what they must be dealing with when they look at Google and Bing starting to do generative advertising. Nicola Agius wrote an article called "Google Microsoft Generative AI Experiments Concern Advertisers," in which he points out how both companies basically just said, if you're advertising with us, this is how advertising looks now. They either just assumed advertisers would be happy with the experiment, or they just decided this experiment is so important that we'll just deal with the fallout. But some brands that are very concerned about their image don't want the uncertainty about not knowing where the ad's gonna show up, what's gonna be next to it. And Google and Microsoft said they're open to understanding these kind of worries, but at the end of the day, it sure looks like they're just gonna do what they're gonna do, you know? And that's why some advertisers have decided you gotta just shut the door. This is not the kind of place I'm gonna put my advertising money. My guess will be it'll be a rocky road for a while, and then if they can succeed, meaning if you can generate a response prompt for somebody that is truly what they're looking for, and it's something that they trust and they've read and it's customized, and it includes a link to a product and somebody buys it, then that might be really powerful, but they'd have to learn to trust it not 100% of the time, but most of the time, which really is a paradigm shift in how you're gonna advertise. But now let's flip to the other side of that story and talk about how artificial intelligence is starting to write ads now. Craig Hale has been playing with some awesome new tools that help people make advertisements for Instagram and Facebook. And on a post that he wrote titled "Meta is using AI to build the the next generation of online ads. He talks about this thing called the AI sandbox, which is like a playground for testing out new AI ideas. And in the sandbox, Meta has a writer that can actually write the ads for you, which is crazy if you think about it because they have data about who's clicked on what. It might become superhuman at this task. There's also a new update that allows you to do videos where you could only do photos before. And we've seen where text to video is right now, pretty cringy, but man, that gap is gonna get closed soon, and this is gonna be a whole different advertising ecosystem. Smash that subscribe button!